Hello there, thanks for joining me this Monday on 7Edition. I'm Sabrina Zana and these are your top stories. Almost half of nearly 5,000 civil servants involved in corruption. The family of 3 perish in tragic house fire. And protesters torch local parliament building in Indonesia's Papua. We begin with this story. About 46.3% out of the 4,860 individuals detained for graft from 2014 up to June this year were civil servants, and most of the offences are committed by staff in the procurement sector. Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission MACC Chief Commissioner Latifah Koya said what's even more alarming is that youths made up more than half of the number of detainees.
53.4% daripada 4,860 individu yang ditahan tersebut kerana kesalahan rasuah adalah golongan muda yang berusia 40 tahun ke bawah. Dan menyaksikan
Latifah also disclosed a study carried out by the anti-graft body that revealed 22.1% of respondents in the public sector said they were willing to accept bribes if they had power or position. Such attitude must be corrected so that corruption among civil servants could be eradicated. However, it demands the commitment of all quarters to cooperate with the MACC in addressing this issue effectively. Now, the MACC also urged all politicians who have access to public funds to declare their assets in an effort to prevent corruption. Its Chief Commissioner Latifah Koya said this will avoid allegations that politicians are involved in corruption.
Jika kita dapat satu yang ideal, kita juga ingin menyeru kepada ahli-ahli majlis juga, kerana wherever you have access to do something, to make a decision which involves public fund, this is where you need to actually be transparent.
Latifah was commenting on the statement by former Prime Minister Datuk Seri Najib Razak, who last month voiced his disagreement with the mandatory asset declaration for all MPs, including members of the opposition. She was speaking to reporters after witnessing Selangor State Exco members take the corruption-free pledge today. Menteri Besar Amiruddin Syari led the councillors in taking the oath and signing the pledge. Now, moving on, Malacca and Terengganu have joined several other states in imposing a ban against controversial preacher Dr. Zakir Naik. Terengganu Police Chief Dato' Aidi Ismail said today he could not take part in any ceramah or religious talks in the state.
Setakat ini memang tak ada permohonan daripada Zakir Naik ataupun AJ dia yang untuk datang ke Terengganu untuk beberapa ceramah. Dan kalau ada, saya kata saya akan esakkan kajian lagi supaya sebab tadi tak sesuai lah untuk dia datang untuk bagi ceramah. Sebenarnya ada isu-isu yang timbul sekarang lah.
Dato' Aidi said besides giving ceramah, Dr. Zakir was also advised to not attend any programs that he was invited to, as it could jeopardize unity and harmony among the public. Now, elaborating on the ban against Dr. Zakir, Malacca Chief Minister Adli Zahari said the controversial preacher should focus on giving religious talks in his own country. Adli added Dr. Zakir is only allowed to visit the state as a tourist and not give any talks in Malacca. The last time Dr. Zakir had given a ceramah in Malacca was back in 2016 and in front of a crowd of 20,000 people. Other states that have banned Dr. Zakir from giving talks are Johor, Selangor, Penang, Kedah, Perlis and Sarawak. This was following his controversial speech in Kelantan, which angered the Chinese and Indian communities.
In
In another development, Dr. Zakir Naik is demanding that Penang Deputy Chief Minister 2 P. Ramasamy, Klang Member of Parliament Charles Santiago, and 2 others withdraw statements that he deems defamatory. A letter of demand by the Mumbai-born preacher today stated that the 4 had allegedly uttered defamatory statements towards him between August 11th and 13th, which were widely published by the press and other social media platforms. Dr. Zakir claimed that the statements were false and had tarnished his reputation and credibility. The 4 individuals were given 48 hours to retract their allegations and issue an apology to him. Dr. Zakir has courted controversy by making statements deemed offensive to certain quarters during his lecture in Kota Baru last week. Police have opened an investigation paper to probe his controversial remarks after 115 police reports were lodged against him. Now, the much-awaited high-profile One Malaysia Development Berhad 1MDB trial involving former Prime Minister Datuk Seri Najib Razak has been postponed to next Monday. The Pukan MP is facing 4 charges of corruption and 21 counts of money laundering amounting to 2.28 billion ringgit. August 26th was set by High Court Judge Colin Lawrence Sequeira after the prosecution requested to push forward the trial date to give way to the SRC international case to be concluded first. According to lead prosecutor Datuk Seri Gopal Sri Ram, the SRC international case is still ongoing and is expected to conclude this week. He suggested September 3rd as the trial date, as his team has yet to complete a few issues. Also, 12 new witness statements were handed to the defense team last Friday. According to court procedures, statements from the witnesses have to be submitted to the defense team at least 14 days before the trial date, unless there is an agreement from both sides. The prosecution is also handing over 15 volumes of documents to the defense team. Tan Sri Muhammad Shafi'i Abdullah, who is leading Datuk Seri Najib's defense team, said he would need time to go through the documents and witness statements and at the same time prepare for the SRC international case as it involves the same team. The court also fixed Thursday for case management. An orphanage employee was charged in the Selayang Magistrates Court today with the murder of a 13-month-old girl 2 weeks ago. Tunku Faiz Kamarul Azahan Tuan Kamaruddin, age 34, only nodded when the charge was read out to him before Magistrate Nur Hafizah Rajuni. No plea was recorded from the accused as the case falls under the purview of the High Court. The father of 3 was accused of having murdered Sofia Fakihah Abdul Rakib at the home of the accused in Taman Gombak Permai, Gombak on August 4th. He was charged under the Penal Code, which provides the mandatory death sentence upon conviction. The court set October 4th for mention of the case. On August 9th, it was reported that a babysitter and her husband were believed to have severely abused the victim before killing her at their home. Gombak Police Chief ACP Samsur Ma'ruf said there were 39 external injury marks found on the victim's body. A post-mortem carried out at the Kuala Lumpur hospital revealed that the baby died of severe injuries to the head caused by a blunt object. Screams and pleas for help were heard coming from a semi-wooden house at Kampung Alah Batu in Kuala Kubu Baru, Selangor, when it was raised in a fire early this morning. Neighbours could only watch in terror as the blaze that was just too intense killed a family of 3. Muhammad Sharidan Abdul Aziz, age 29, his wife Siti Rafini Muhammad Rafi'i, 27, and their 14-month-old son, Rafiq, were found burnt to death in a room in the house. Neighbor Muhammad Arif was asleep when his son alerted him of the fire. He immediately went out to check and saw the fire engulfing the neighbor's house and heard the wife screaming for help. The neighbors tried to put out the fire, but their efforts were in vain.
Dia minta tolong lah isteri dia. Dia cakap tolong. Pakcik cakap keluar. 6 kali pakcik cakap. Lepas tu khabar berita pun tak ada. Semua terus sengap. Terus diam. Tak ada satu suara pun tak ada lagi dah. Masih api masih marak.
Api dah menjulang-julang. Tak boleh nak bantu. Tak boleh kita nak bantu macam mana kita nak apa ni? Tunggu bomba je. Kita sebagai manusia biasa ni memang tak upayalah. Sebab terlalu kuat ada sampai keluar dapat ni.
A team of firemen from Slim River and Kuala Kubu Baru was rushed to the scene and managed to bring the fire under control. They discovered 3 charred bodies in a room of the house at 3:51 a.m. The remains were buried at the Kuala Slim Muslim Cemetery after Zuhur prayers, while the cause of the fire, however, is still being investigated. Now, the Kedah state government will propose to the Transport Ministry to restudy the Standard Operating Procedure SOP for passenger ferry services during bad weather. Agriculture and Agro-Based Industry and Transport Committee Chairman Azman Nasruddin said the SOP will allow the Marine Department to stop ferries from sailing in adverse weather conditions to reduce risk to passengers. According to Azman, in the current SOP, the Marine Department can only advise against the journey, while the ferry captain has the final say. The proposal was made after a Langkawi ferry was trashed in a storm on August 9th. Chairs on the ferry came off and 217 passengers were tossed around in the traumatic journey. The Marine Department advised the ferry on the bad weather condition, but the captain still decided to take off on the 2.5-hour journey from the Kuala Kedah jetty to the Kuah jetty. According to Azman, the incident involving the ferry from JMV Ferry Services was also not reported to the Marine Department.
Ini suatu perkara yang sangat serius. Cuma kita bersyukur tidak ada kemalangan berlaku. Kalau melihat kepada keadaan ferry dengan kerusi yang patah itu, kita bimbang dia boleh mengakibatkan kemalangan. Boleh menyebabkan ferry karam di laut dalam keadaan macam tu. Jadi untuk prevent benda ni, kita ada satu SOP yang baru.
Azman will be meeting with the Transport Minister Anthony Loke to propose the new rule. On August 9th, the northern region of the peninsula was hit by the tail end of Typhoon Likima, with wind speeds going up to 100 kilometers per hour. The Yang di-Pertuan Agong Al-Sultan Abdullah Riayatuddin Al-Mustafa Billah Shah was conferred Brunei's highest award, the Darjah Kerabat Mahkota Brunei (DKMB) by the Sultan of Brunei Darussalam, Sultan Hassan Al-Bolkiah. His Majesty is on a 3-day state visit to the Sultanate, and the Raja Permaisuri Agong Tunku Hajah Azizah Aminah Maimunah Iskandaria, who accompanied the king, was also conferred an award, the Darjah Kerabat Laila Utama Yang Amat Dihormati. At the same award ceremony at Istana Nurul Iman, Al-Sultan Abdullah also conferred Malaysia's Darjah Utama Sri Mahkota Negara on Raja Isteri Pengiran Anak Hajah Saleha, the consort of the Sultan of Brunei. When we return, find out how sensitive a woman can be. We'll be right back. Thanks for staying with us. Now onto the foreign front. Protesters in the West Papuan provincial capital of Manokwari set fire to the local parliament building after a demonstration against the arrest and detention of scores of Papuan students. A separatist movement has simmered for decades in Indonesia's easternmost provinces, Papua and West Papua, while Indonesian security forces have been frequently accused of human rights abuses. However, Indonesia's police chief on Monday said the authorities were regaining control of the situation. The spark for the latest unrest appears to have been the detention of scores of Papuan students in Surabaya, East Java, for bending a flagpole in front of a dormitory during the celebration of Indonesia's Independence Day on August 17th. According to activists, police fired tear gas into dormitories before arresting 43 students, with officers calling the students monkeys during the operation. Local media reported Papuan students were forced to barricade themselves in their dormitories while a vigilante mob threw stones at the building while chanting, "Kick out Papuans" and "Slaughter Papuans" for hours. On Monday morning, Papuan protesters set fire to the Legislative Council building and blocked streets in the provincial capital of West Papua by burning tires and tree branches. Reports said 150 people marched the streets in Manokwari, while footages showed smoke billowing from a parliament building. The Papua and West Papua provinces, the resource-rich western part of the New Guinea island, makes up a former Dutch colony that was incorporated into Indonesia after a widely criticized UN-backed referendum in 1969. President Joko Widodo has sought to ease tension in the restive region, including by building the Trans-Papua Highway to spur economic activities and improve people's welfare. However, unrest has persisted and separatists killed a group of construction workers in December 2018, triggering a military crackdown that displaced thousands in the Nduga area. Now, updates on the Hong Kong protests. Around 200 demonstrators gathered in front of the White House in the U.S. capital, Washington, on Sunday, demanding freedom for the Chinese territory. According to the organizers, there were similar rallies in 36 cities in 12 countries as well as regions over the weekend to support the movement. Protesters were seen wearing black T-shirts that have become a symbol of the rallies while chanting freedom for Hong Kong and protect democracy in Hong Kong. This somehow concerned some U.S. lawmakers, as Beijing may resort to armed forces to contain the mass protests in the territory, as it did during the Tiananmen Square crackdown 30 years ago. Worrying that this would harm trade talks between the two countries, U.S. President Donald Trump is expected to seek a peaceful solution to the issue by holding a telephone conversation with his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping for the next 10 days.
No, I think it would be very hard to deal if they do violence. I mean, if it's another Tiananmen Square, I think it's a very hard thing to do if there's violence. And you know, that I'm president, but that's a little beyond me, because I think there'd be tremendous political sentiment not to do something.
Hong Kong has meanwhile been dealing with more than 2 months of protests. Sunday's march, however, saw a crowd of at least 1.7 million, the largest rally since it began. The unrest was first sparked by widespread opposition to a plan for allowing extraditions to the Chinese mainland, but has since morphed into a broader call for democratic rights in the semi-autonomous city. It's time for our daily segment, Clickbait, where we take a look at what's trending and making the rounds in the cyber world today. And the last thing you want to do if you're in a relationship is give insensitive comments to your partner, especially if you just started dating them. Recently, a man in China got the worst from his girlfriend after calling her fat when all she wanted to do was have ice cream. Never come between a woman and her ice cream. According to a local news site, the couple were on a stroll around a shopping street in the Henan city of Zhumaidian on Wednesday when the woman expressed interest in a cone to help cool off from the heat. Witnesses said her boyfriend responded by saying, "You're already so fat and you still want to eat ice cream?" After that insult, the woman silently went into a store, bought a pair of scissors, and stabbed her partner 4 times, causing him to collapse to the ground. He was rushed to the hospital, but unfortunately succumbed to his injuries en route after losing too much blood. The woman was arrested following an attempt to flee. Friends of the couple, who are both in their 20s, said that they have been dating for approximately 20 days. We're back with some business updates. Bursa Malaysia is not heading for a crash soon, despite having been on a downtrend since Malaysia's change of government over a year ago. Trade VSA Systems Sdn Berhad Chief Trainer Martin Wong said the local bourse is expected to rise gradually as it recovers from a correction mode.
Wong said the FTSE Bursa Malaysia KLCI, FBM KLCI, is now hovering at its lowest level in recent years but would not deteriorate further. The former fund manager expects the benchmark index to hover between 1,680 points and 1,700 points by the end of the year, backed by a recovery in key plantation, construction and oil and gas sectors.
Now, plantation has fallen tremendously, right down to almost 1900 prices, but it's recovered back to 2100 now, which is 2100. And one of these reasons is that because our country is making effort now, together with the President Jokowi, who's currently visiting, to really reinstate back the palm oil as a usage. And the fact that US and China trade war, where US has stopped buying some of the US farm product, may end up benefiting us. They may end up buying some, palm oil from us. So we will see some recovery toward that.
Fears of a global market crash are growing following the overextended boom and bust cycle, which has breached the typical 10-year period since the 2008 financial crisis. Back home, the negative sentiment has been amplified by the local stock market's lackluster performance after the new government took a bold move to reveal its worrying financial position. Dampening the situation further is the unfavorable global trade environment arising from ongoing disputes between economic powerhouses, Brexit, and the European Union's ban on palm oil, among others. However, Wong said the next market crash is unlikely to occur soon in view of the upcoming U.S. presidential elections scheduled for next year.
The Employees Provident Fund, EPF, launched its iInvest online platform, which allows members to make informed investments in unit trust funds offered by EPF-approved fund management institutions. Its Chief Executive Officer, Tunku Ali Zakri alias, said the facility empowers members to take control of their investments and make transactions at nearly zero cost. In a statement, he said members may transfer from their EPF account up to 30% of the amount in excess of basic savings to be invested in the qualified funds via iInvest. Members can also use iInvest to open an account with any fund management institutions to invest in unit trust funds. Members aged 55 and above can utilize iInvest using account 55 or account a must through iAccount as a mode of withdrawal, subject to maintaining a minimum of 1,000 ringgit in their account. The EPF enforces strict guidelines for fund management institutions to safeguard members' interests and approved 389 funds from various investment categories under the EPF Members Investment Scheme. Moving on, Prasarana Malaysia Berhad is set to achieve up to 900 million ringgit in revenue for the financial year ending December 31st, 2019. Its President and Group CEO, Datuk Muhammad Hazlan Muhammad Hussein, said this would be supported by the increase in ridership, cost optimization and service quality.
When we are put in Prasarana to turn around, the three core areas that we have to look at is to increase in ridership, cost optimization, and operation efficiency. So the EBITDA will tell us that we are making better in terms of the operations efficiency. So we have to look in that manner, and we think that we need to go forward and be more positive about our ways of making it a better Prasarana.
Speaking at the media briefing on Prasarana's performance, he also said Rapid Rail Sendirian Berhad saw its ridership jump by 10% year-on-year to 112.7 million. Rapid Ferry Sendirian Berhad's ridership also surged to 700,000 from 200,000 previously. However, Rapid Buses Sendirian Berhad's ridership dropped from 90.8 million to 81.3 million. Now, Bursa Malaysia wrapped up the day mixed after a range-bound trading day. This as investors awaited further market direction amid global uncertainty. The benchmark FBM KLCI ended 2.77 points lower at 1,596 points, 0.45. Now on to stocks to watch. Dialog Group Berhad's plan to increase its stake in Halliburton Bayan Petroleum bodes well for the firm's earnings outlook. The move will result in earnings consolidation, which could lift Dialog's estimated bottom line for financial years 2020 until 2022 by an average of 1.2%. Next, Elsoft Research Berhad's financial performance for 2019 is expected to moderate with lower revenue and net profit. The company's share price also sees little to no room for an upside potential as it is deemed fairly valued at current levels. And last but not least, PIE Industrial Berhad is in for a stronger performance in the second half of 2019, backed by improved operational efficiency and profitability. Topping that, the company continues to be in a net cash position of 93.6 million ringgit, and dividend yield is expected at 4.3%.